So for the most part of the time that I've spent on a skateboard, I've been skating slim skate shoes. Every single time I buy new skate shoes, I usually go for the same kind of aesthetic. They're usually slim soles, very thin, not much protection, and a tan colour. And recently I've started to feel a little bit bored of skating the same type of shoe every single time. So I was doing some searching on Google, just looking for some new shoes, maybe some inspiration for a new pair of shoes to skate. And I came across a documentary by Vice, which was based around the creation of the D3 skate shoe, which, if you don't know, is one of the most famous skate shoes of the early 2000s. This shoe is incredibly obnoxious looking, and I can't imagine many people can pull this shoe off. And it looks like it just has every piece of material possible that you can put on a shoe on this skate shoe. After watching the creators of this shoe talk about the creation of the shoe and how passionate they were about it, something sort of clicked in me where I kind of wanted to, for the first time in my life, try out a chunky skate shoe. I've never once before looked at a chunky skate shoe and thought, wow, I really want to try that and it looks amazing. If I ever saw them online, I would just scroll past them and go straight to the slim shoes. I've never really thought that they would suit my style of clothing or what I would normally wear. I started looking on a few websites, and in the end I purchased about 3 different pair of chunky skate shoes. After receiving these shoes and trying them on and having a little skate in them so far, it's made me think, why did these skate shoes ever go out of fashion? What is it that slim skate shoes offer that chunky skate shoes don't? Is it just aesthetics, or are they actually genuinely better for skateboarding? So I did some research into the timeline and history of skate shoes to kind of find out what went wrong for chunky skate shoes and where did slim skate shoes kind of come in and take over. And this is what I found out. So in the 50s, when skateboarding first started coming around, surfers were going barefoot on skateboards. They were just replicating how it would be if they're out surfing.
Well, the next event coming up is the girls' free skateboarding competition, or the Tricks event.
Then fast forward to 1965, when the first televised skate comp happened. Skateboarders here were using the Converse Chuck Taylors, very popular shoe at the time. These shoes were obviously very slim and not much padding on the outside. But then you have to remember that at this time, skateboards didn't have grip tape, so the worry of your shoes ripping wasn't really there. Then going forward to the late 70s, early 80s, the ollie was invented, meaning that skate shoes had to move with the times. Vans and Etnies came in with high tops, which had the idea of protecting your ankles a little bit better. The Air Jordan 1s were also incredibly popular at this time, as they were so cheap to come by and very similar to the current skate shoes. So in this era already, skate shoes were getting a little bit chunkier. They were becoming high top, and padding to the outside of the shoe was also being added to protect your feet when doing ollies. Then going forward to the 90s, tricks became more technical, so companies like Duff's and DC were ditching high tops and creating thinner shoes. The reason for this would be to have more board feel when you're doing flip tricks and ollies and whatever else. So at this point already, we've gone from barefoot to slim shoe to slightly chunkier, but then back to slim shoes again. So going forward to 1997 now, this was quite a pivotal time for skate shoes. S brought out a Pro Koston shoe, which was an air cushioned shoe. Again, this was a very popular shoe at the time, and this shoe alone kind of set the mark for chunky skate shoes going forward. A lot of brands started to bring out skate shoes which promised technology within the cushioning of the shoe, and then brands like DVS followed suit and started to bring out very similar shoes. Then in the early 2000s, inspired by the Eric Koston Pro shoe, chunky and very obnoxious shoes started to come onto the scene. Most brands were following trend at this point and creating these huge, chunky, colourful, crazy shoes. The Osiris D3 also came out in this point, and it was one of the first skate shoes to ever kind of cross over from skateboarding to the mainstream at this point. but it didn't last very long. Once we get to 2005, slim shoes were making their way back into the market. I think a lot of people realized that these chunky, huge shoes were not beneficial to skating. Maybe they would give you a bit more protection and cushioning, but the way that these shoes were so oversized, you wouldn't really have much board feel. They just weren't very beneficial to progressing. Then once we get to 2009, Nike SB started making their way in and dominating the market. They brought out the Janoski, which we all know today as one of the most popular skate shoes. From 2010 to now, I don't feel like personally there has been much change. And even in the past 2 to 3 years, I would say that even slimmer shoes are making their way into the market. Slip-on skate shoes are very popular. There's literally zero padding at the top of these shoes or around the shoes. You just have the sole, and the soles are very thin on these shoes. But a lot of brands are now releasing slightly chunkier skate shoes, but it does feel that chunky skate shoes might be on their way back in. I started skateboarding around 2003, 2004, and when I started, the shoes that I was buying were DCs, and they were kind of in between slim, in between chunky. They weren't huge, and then as time went on, I've spent most of my time skating Nike SB or Adidas, very slim shoes. So for me, it is a very new thing to be skating chunky skate shoes. It's something that I've never really done before. I think also a lot of people might see this and look at these shoes that I'm about to skate and think that they're not really that chunky. But you have to realize, for me, I've been skating very slim shoes like slip-ons for the past few years. So anything that has a bit of cushioning and padding around the sides and is bigger than maybe your normal shoe, to me feels massive. I've had a couple of sessions so far with these shoes. The first pair that I tried out were the S Avant, and the second pair that I tried out were the S Silo. So I filmed a few clips with these shoes on, and then after I played the footage, I'll kind of go through my final thoughts on what I actually feel about these skate shoes and how I feel about them. My first impression with the shoes so far are that they feel quite loose. Not loose like they'll come off my feet, but they just don't feel as tight as slim shoes. Slim shoes usually go around your feet and are quite snug, whereas these do feel quite loose. They feel like there's a lot of protection there, and so far it feels like there's just as much board feel as like a slim shoe. That was the main thing I was worried about putting them on initially. I was thinking, I'm either going to be able to feel my board under my feet, or I guess time will tell the more I skate them. And yeah, really enjoyed them so far, so I'll keep skating them and see how I go. So if someone was to ask me, do I think that big or chunky shoes are as good or better than slim shoes, I would have to say no. I would say that bigger shoes are better in certain ways, but slim shoes are better in more ways. The things that I do like about the bigger shoes is that they are extremely comfortable. Even just for everyday walking around, they are far more comfortable than slim shoes. Because I've been wearing the slim shoes for a long time now, even in just everyday life, I'd kind of forgotten what comfy shoes felt like. They also feel very protected. It feels that when you're skating, it would be hard to hurt your feet, which obviously isn't true, but it gives you that kind of barrier. It feels that the shoes are very safe to use. And the main one about the big shoes for me is that I personally really like the aesthetic look of big shoes. I think that's the main thing that it comes down to for most people anyway, is that if you prefer the aesthetic of a slim shoe over a big shoe, that's going to be the first initial thought you have when you go to choose shoes. I think the lack of board feel with big shoes is a deal breaker for a lot of skaters these days, especially if you're a technical skater who does a lot of kickflips and underflips and grind combinations, etc. You're probably going to miss having that board feel that you get with slim shoes. So I think that if you're someone who is looking to get shoes purely for progression and what will give you that maximum efficiency on a skateboard, then I think that slim shoes are probably the best way. But that being said, I think that if you're someone who skates something like vert or big transition ramps, then big shoes could also benefit you purely from a protection point of view. But I guess at the end of the day, it just comes down to preference. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give me a comment, thumbs up, subscribe. I'm hoping to upload every single Wednesday consistently from now on. See you in the next one.